All right, let's get right into it. We're breaking down the journey of jute, from the plant all the way to the finished product. And we're starting right at the beginning, with the most critical first steps inside a jute mill. So if you're trying to get your head around this process, maybe for an exam, stick with me. You're going to want to know this stuff inside and out.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how the raw jute fiber gets prepped. Then, we'll check out the machines that softened it up and spread it out. After that, it's the main event, carding. We'll cover what it is, the different machines, and how the whole thing gets optimized.
Okay, first things first. Before you can even think about feeding jute into a big machine, you've got to prepare it. And this starts with a process called pilling. Now, this isn't just about cleaning it. Think of it more like letting the jute marinate. You're letting it sit and mature, so it starts to soften up naturally.
And as you can see here, pilling is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. The time it takes really depends on the jute's type and quality. A good quality long jute might just need a couple of days, but a lower grade mesta, that could be sitting for up to a week. And look, the reason this matters so much, and this is a key takeaway, is that if you mess up this initial softening, it's going to cause problems for every single step that comes after.
All right, after pilling comes the chemical side of things. We need to create what's called a batching emulsion. It's basically a special cocktail of oil, water, and an emulsifier designed to soften the fibers. And this machine, the OD automatic batch mixer, is built for one job: to make that mix perfectly blended and stable. And trust me, stability is everything here. An unstable mix is like using lunky gravy. It's just not going to coat everything evenly, and you'll get uneven softening, which is a huge headache later.
The cool thing about this machine is how precise it is. The operator literally just dials in the percentages they need. Then the machine does all the heavy lifting. It measures everything out, adds just the right amount of water to make a 1,000-liter batch, and then a super high-speed agitator whips it all together to create that perfect, stable emulsion. Okay, so our softening liquid is ready to go. Now it's time for the mechanical muscle. We've got to physically work those stiff, raw jute fibers. And there are two main machines for this job, and you absolutely need to know the difference between them: the softener and the spreader. So on the left, you've got the jute softener. It's pretty straightforward, really. It just uses a bunch of grooved or fluted rollers, anywhere from 24 to 64 pairs, to basically crush and bend the fibers. On the right, that's the jute spreader. It looks a bit more complicated, using a system of chains and rollers. Let's really break down what sets them apart. Okay, this is the part you really want to pay attention to. The softener, that's your workhorse. It's cheaper and can handle pretty much any type of jute you throw at it. The spreader, on the other hand, is the expensive specialist. It's only for long jute. But here's the absolute key difference, the thing you'll want to remember. The spreader applies something called a draft. That just means it thins out the material as it goes. Plus, it gives you a nice, neat roll at the end, which the softener just can't do. All right, now we're getting to the heart of the matter. The single most important stage we're talking about today, carding. Seriously, if there's one thing you need to grasp about jute processing, it's this. This is where the magic really happens, where the raw fiber truly starts to transform.
So what is carding exactly? Well, imagine taking those long, rough bundles of jute and feeding them into a machine filled with super fast rollers covered in tiny pins. These pins literally rip and comb through the fibers, breaking them all down. What comes out the other side is this beautiful, uniform ribbon of fiber that we call a sliver. That sliver is the goal.
So what's the point of all this? Well, carding has 4 big jobs to do. Number 1, it separates all the individual fibers from each other. Number 2, it cleans out all the dust and dirt. 3, it organizes those fibers into a delicate little sheet, like a web. And finally, number 4, it stretches out or drafts that web to create that perfect, consistent sliver we just talked about. Okay, so you can't just say a carding machine. It's not that simple. There are different types and they're classified in a few different ways. And if you're studying this, you really need to know these classifications. It's the key to understanding why a mill chooses one machine over another. So one way to classify them is by how the main cylinder works. Check out the one on the left. That's a half-circular card. See how the jute goes in one side and comes out the other, basically traveling halfway around that big cylinder? Now look at the full circular card on the right. The jute goes almost all the way around, nearly a full 360 degrees. What does that mean? More contact time with those pins, which means a much more intense carding action. Another way we classify them is by their striking action. You've got upstriking and downstriking. Think of upstriking as the gentler option. It's used for lower quality jute because you don't lose as much fiber. Downstriking is the opposite. It's more aggressive, so it does a much better job of cleaning the fibers. That makes it perfect for high-quality jute. But there's a catch. You lose more fiber in the process. It's that classic engineering trade-off. Do you want better quality or higher yield? Now, here's something important. In a modern jute mill, you don't just use one carding machine and call it a day. Nope. It's a two-stage process. They use a pair of machines, one after the other, to get the job done right. And the first one in that sequence is called the breaker card. Let's trace the journey of the jute through this machine, because it's pretty cool. It comes in on that feed sheet, right? Then the feed rollers grab it and pass it to that huge, fast-spinning main cylinder. Now, the real work happens in those little pairs of rollers on top, the worker and the stripper. The worker roller is slow, the stripper is faster, and this difference in speed between them and the main cylinder is what does all the combing and breaking down of the fibers. Then it all gets collected and condensed into that first sliver. And to give you an idea of the forces we're talking about, get a load of these speeds. That main cylinder can be spinning at up to 2,700 feet per minute. Meanwhile, the feed roller bringing the jute in is just crawling along at like 9 to 14 feet per minute. That insane difference in speed is what creates the powerful carding action you need to just tear through that raw jute. So once the sliver comes out of the breaker card, it's not done yet. It goes straight into the finisher card for round 2. And just by looking at this diagram, you can spot the big differences. First, remember how we talked about full circular cards? This is one. And second, count the worker and stripper pairs. Instead of just 2 like the breaker, this one has 4. More pairs means more refining.
Okay, this slide right here, this is your cheat sheet. It's perfect for studying. The breaker card is stage 1. It's the brute force. Half circular, coarse pins set far apart, and it just churns out material at a high rate. The finisher card is stage 2. It's all about finesse. Full circular, finer pins set much closer together. Its production rate is lower because its whole purpose is to perfect the sliver and focus on quality.
So this all begs a pretty obvious question, right? One you might totally get asked. Why all the hassle? Why use 2 big, expensive, complicated machines when maybe one could do the job? Well, there's a 2-part answer. For one, raw jute is just incredibly tough stuff. It's harsh and stiff. One machine just can't get it from that raw state all the way to a spinnable fiber. It's too much to ask. And 2, by splitting the job, you can do a much better job of cleaning out all the impurities. And that's absolutely vital if you want a high-quality product at the end.
Okay, last section. It's not enough to just have the right machines. To get that perfect high-quality sliver, you have to be able to control the process. And that means managing a whole bunch of different variables.
Think of these as all the dials and levers the mill operator gets to play with. You've got the pin density on the rollers, the speed of the cylinder, how fast you're feeding the material in, the speed of the worker and stripper rollers, even the tiny little gaps between all the rollers. Tweak any one of these things, and you can totally change the final product. So that leaves us with this final thought. With all of these different factors in play, speed, density, all these mechanical settings, which one is the most important for getting that perfect balance between quality and efficiency? And the truth is, there isn't one. It's a complex dance, and mastering how all these things work together, that's really where the science of jute manufacturing becomes an art.